Venkateshwar University, Gajrola, Uttar Pradesh. My only suggestion is that you please stick to the time period of 10 minutes. Do not exceed that.
The reason I have chosen this topic is I myself have some global experience. I'm an engineer turned lawyer, and I've been working I've been educated in the US and Australia, and I've worked in all these countries and in UK. And I've seen the darker side of Africa for 2 years. I worked there also. So I have some global experience. That's why I've taken this topic. Sorry for the self-advertisement, but I needed to do that. So basically, I'm in fact honored to be here in BHU to present the research paper. Now, I'm focusing on 3 major economies among the emerging economies, India, China, and Brazil, which take more than half the population. If we combine these 3, India and China itself are almost half. If you add Brazil, another 250 million, it'll be more than that. So I'm focusing on these 3 countries, and more so on India at a later stage. Now, because of globalization, there's a lot of challenge that all these countries are facing in terms of legal education. Now, partly because of language barriers. For all these countries, English is not the native language. China has its own language, Brazil influenced by Portuguese. India's, we have, every state has a language, so we don't have to go into the details. So that's about India. But if you look at all the 3 emerging economies, India has a vast history. We have about, some people say 7,000, some people say 10,000 years of civilization that is continuous, that is not broken up, unlike Greek or Roman or Egyptian civilization. It is a continuous civilization that we are still alive. Nobody has, they tried their best for 800 years. They tried their best for 800 years, but they couldn't succeed. So we are still going on strong. But did we take the advantage of this great civilization we have? Unfortunately, we didn't. And the reason being, let us start from the beginning, that is 1947, when the country was formed. Who was our prime minister? It was Mr. Nehru. And who was the education minister? Maulana Azad. If you look at these 2 people's education, their own qualification, you'll be surprised. Nehru passed his LLB 25% less than me. He was pushed with a gentleman pass with grace marks. That is our first prime minister. And Maulana Azad is a madrasa educated man born in Saudi. He was not even born in India. He was born in Saudi. He moved to India, and his education was mostly in madrasa. So if these 2 people were to form the country's education policy, you can imagine what happened, and obviously we know now what happened after 75 years of independence. But did we ever try to correct? We didn't. I'll just focus on what is happening in other economies briefly and then come back to India again. Now, emerging economies, as I said, as India, China, and Brazil, they have very vibrant hubs of growth and innovation in technology-wise and other areas. Especially China, it is almost the #1 in technology. And the legal landscape is undergoing a profound transformation. Against this backdrop, my research seeks to examine the trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the legal education in this very dynamic environment. Because it is a consistent change that is happening in technology, in various types of technologies, including your ChatGPT, which helps us write a lot of research papers easily, but it can be caught, obviously. We're not going on that. But see, let's go back to China and Brazil. China was very good in the 1920s or even before. with its own legal system and all that. There was a British influence about a few decades, but after the independence, when China kicked out whatever, the British influence was gone, they went back to their roots. The Chinese language, obviously, it's the major dominating language in their country, and their own systems. Even they have a very, long civilization to boast of. It may not match ours, but then they do have a long history and a long, a good heritage to follow. And there are a lot of, philosophers, Chinese philosophers, and people that they like to follow. Now, Brazil, on the other hand, is a young country compared to India and China. They don't have much of history. They were influenced by the Portuguese. It was a Portuguese colony. So, but in the modern day, Brazil has almost equivalent number of advocates on par with US, though their population is hardly about 200 million odd. But they have number of colleges and advocates at a very high level when you look at per capita. Unlike India, of course, we need more lawyers, more judges, but then, yes, our resources were less. Now, of course, we're going to be the fifth economy. We are the fifth, we're going to be third soon. Hopefully, we'll invest more in the judiciary. Now, I'll just focus as to what I was saying initially, like technology plays an important role, technical skills, and there are a lot of tools nowadays that any legal student can follow. In the earlier days, it was, we used to refer to all those voluminous law books, take it out one by one, read where it is and all. Now we have all these various software tools that have come, and we can just research and find out the laws. Okay, the precedences and case laws we can find out. These are tools that have to be taught, and there is some need for a little bit of software knowledge required for even today's law students. I mean, many may know, many may not know what is a little bit of software, how to go about, these packages, these applications. But that will be important to impart some little bit of software, how to go about the using computers and using applications, legal applications. Now, a critical question arises: why has India, with its rich history and civilization spanning thousands of years, struggled to develop own legal framework rooted in its ancient texts? It did not. So why have we not drawn upon the wisdom of Vedas, the epics like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the timeless teaching of Kautilya's Arthashastra? Within these three books, I'm not even talking of Vedas, just concentrating on Mahabharata and Ramayana and Kautilya's Arthashastra, we can easily have, let's say Mahabharata. It has a lot of war-related laws. There were rules at that time, even before after the Second World War, the UN started framing rules. Even before that, we had thousands of years ago, we had all these rules. When to start a war, when to end a war, and what are the rules. If somebody is armed or unarmed, you shouldn't kill. All those rules were there, but we didn't take any of those. Instead, we were very happy trying to quote Latin maxims and using, most of us, me being educated in the West, even I would hesitate to pronounce those Latin maxims. So it has become fashionable to quote, even in our courts. I'm a practicing lawyer in the High Court. The judges will quote maxims to impress upon and convey their knowledge upon us. Look, I've quoted this. Indirectly or directly, they want to share, show off their knowledge. So that's the irony that we are facing with our legal system. And coming to Ramayana, we all know the do's and don'ts of life. You know, how to, in fact, we could have written family law based on Ramayana. It is that easy to actually, at least a group of, we have formed at least n number of committees since the independence. 3 or 4 committees for law should have been formed from the time of independence to actually work on our own law. Here I would like to mention something about America. Because I did my engineering in US, I was very much impressed in their legal system. Remember, these people who went to US are all Europeans, French, Spanish, and English people. They could develop their own law. Of course, it was meant on, it was after the liberty and all that the French gave them, the rules. And the UK system also. But they didn't directly copy it. They made their own system of presidential elections, direct elections. The most direct elections, even a senator or a house representative or the president himself or herself. Okay, that's the most direct election. And the Bill of Rights, they were the first ones to give the Bill of Rights. And what we did, I'm sorry to say, we have just copy-pasted. If we had Microsoft Word in 1947, we would have developed it in 1 week or even less. We have copied, copy-paste. We have done from Australia, from Canada, from US, from all these countries we have taken. And another irony is, people think that Ambedkar wrote the Constitution. That is a myth. He was just a head of a committee. One Mr. B.N. Rao, he is the one who gave the draft copy of the Constitution. So even things are hidden from us, and we can't even learn who has written our Constitution, first of all. The draft copy, actually. And there are a lot of committees and subcommittees headed by various other, important people in our, from the independence struggle. They did most of the work. Yes, Ambedkar is a very intelligent man. I'm not denying that. But he's not the only guy who did it. Of course, I don't want to get into politics of it, so I'll stick to what I've said and come back to the subject. So, like I said, we didn't do it. We were more interested in going after Latin maxims and all that stuff. Instead, we should have done is quoted Sanskrit slokas. Why didn't it happen? One of the reasons is the Max-Miller edition of Manusmriti and other texts that people like Ambedkar read, because he has no knowledge of Sanskrit. Okay, he's a very intellectual. I agree. He's a highly educated man, a doctorate in economics and all that, and he has a law degree. But he has no knowledge of Sanskrit. He and others at the time, they studied the Max Miller version, the translated version of. Time is up already. Sorry, I'll just conclude, sir. So, sir, can I have 1 minute at least to conclude, so that I do it properly? I should have been told 1 minute early at least.
Yeah. Please conclude it within 1 minute.
1 minute, with your permission. So basically, So what they thought is using Sanskrit is a Brahminical thing. They didn't want to do it. In fact, I'll just quote one book that was supposed to be written by Ambedkar, Brahminical version of Vedas. And the first page I turned, he said, Brahmins are the modern day Nazis. I closed the book. Somewhere in between I turned. Anyway, I don't want to go there. I'll come back to the subject. These are the things, the symptoms who are quite apparent to us, but we didn't act on it. Neither the language nor the decolonization of our education happened. Hopefully, this government, I'm not into any party politics. I'm nobody's party. I'm giving an independent thing here, suggestion here, or my observation here. This government is trying to do something. Of course, they claim to have changed the criminal law. It appears as of now they've changed the nomenclature. Let us see the details, then we'll know. See, all these acts are from 18th century, 1861, our Evidence Act. Of course, they've given a new name, but hopefully the content will also be different. And this should basically impress upon our education. And one last point, so Bar Council, I'll just touch upon. Bar Council is the last council that should be involved in education. They are nobody to be, I'll tell you who the members, because I'm a High Court advocate, we know what happens in Bar Council of State Bar Council and other things. Those who don't have cases, and maybe one or two people are really interested in the Bar Council, they sit there. Not the real advocates, we don't even go into Bar Council, we stick to the courts. So they should not be involved in bar education at all. With this, I conclude my speech, sir. Thank you very much.